All right, it's time. We're about ready to begin the testing in the wind tunnel here. So for the first round, we've got 4 test arrows, and I'm going to explain their arrows and the testing apparatus a little bit here. But we're going to use boning heat vanes. We've got the standard blazer, DCA super sabers. These are not the minis, these are the full super saber. And then the AAE hybrids. Those aren't on the shaft yet because we're gonna have a little bear shaft as our starting point. We're gonna go from there. So first I wanted to just highlight a little bit here of what we got. So, all right, looking at it here. So we've got 4 test arrows. This one will be fletched with those. I've created these where the center of gravity of each relative to the tip is very, very similar. Try to make it identical. And the weight of each shaft is very close. So each one is going to weigh roughly 270. That one's 273.4. They're all going to be within a couple grains. 270, so that's 276.8. Again, the fletching is going to change the weight a little bit. We've got 270 exactly. 273.4. So let's say our average is probably going to be about 275. All right, there's another factor here that I need to discuss in our testing, and that is what we're going to use to shift each of our arrows to the side. So what we have here, so we'll insert an arrow. Inside the nock here, I've got a little magnet, and we'll put our arrow in our fixture. We'll then take a magnet. We'll use this magnet to pull the arrow to the side. You can see here we've got fletching contact for 2 fletchings on each. We'll do a countdown of 3, 2, 1, release. With the fan on, we'll then measure the time it takes for the arrow to stabilize. Now each shaft is going to have a point where it will wobble slightly with the fan on, and that's just due to any imperfections in the fletchings, along with our testing fixture supporting our arrow up here is creating a little bit of turbulence that's unavoidable, but it should give us a very good idea of how our fletchings are performing for our arrow here. So you can see we're getting really close to the arrow not moving anymore. And we'll measure this, we'll video it on the camera here. The camera's gonna be running in 120 frames a second. I don't know that it needs that long. Maybe I'll actually run it in 60 frames a second. And that'll give us an idea of how quickly it stabilizes. All right, so we are ready to begin our test. We have leveled our tunnel here. Our arrow should be hanging perfectly vertical. Any wobbling we see after the arrow is stabilized is due to slight imperfections in arrow flow. Maybe not perfectly laminar, but it's very minimal if anything. The tunnel's off right now. Zoom out a little bit here so we can get a little better view. We've got our vertical lines behind us here so we can see the amount of kick. We'll introduce our magnet to bring our bear shaft to the edge, like so. We have attachment at the nock. I will turn on the fan, let it ramp up, and then we'll do a countdown. 3, 2, 1, release. We do have contact with the side. Let's see how quickly it takes for our arrow to stabilize. Stabilization has occurred when it is nearly vertical. There may be some wobble. Still going back and forth. Here we go. You can see it starting to straighten out. Movement's getting less and less. right, that has stabilized right there. Slight wobble, but nearly no movement. So that took a decent amount of time there to stabilize. Now we're going to input our fletched arrows and do a comparison. I'll stop the camera and I'll re-record for each arrow. Okay, Super Saber stabilization with no airflow. I'm going to rotate here. There we go, got 2 fletchings, contacts flush. 3, 2, 1, release. And we'll measure the time until it stops. I had a couple troubles with the first test there. I was using multiple field points, a couple of which the tip was not as perfect as the others. So I'm refining it. I'm only using the same tip to suspend for every arrow. That way they all have the same tip, just to be on the safe side, to make sure that that doesn't sway the results. All right, we're almost triple the time of stabilization without airflow. So we know that there's a distinctive difference here between airflow and no airflow for stabilization. We're doing this because gravity itself will stabilize this arrow. Eventually it will hang perfectly straight down. We really want to know what's the difference between stabilization time with airflow, i.e. the fletchings are correcting it, and just gravity correcting it. So that'll be a factor that we will use, and it'll help eliminate any mass differences between our different fletching jigs. So first up here is the DCA, which you see on screen. Next, we will do our boning blazer, the AAE Hybrid 26s, and our boning heat vanes. This will be the first 4 fletchings of the wind tunnel fletching tests. Okay, the arrow has not completely stopped. However, we can clearly see that it is a significantly longer amount of time to stabilize relative to airflow. We're just going to let this go until it is no longer moving, even if that takes 10 minutes. Nearly there, I think. All right. Very, very minimal movement left. 4 minutes and 30 seconds in. It was, I think, 30 seconds to stabilize with airflow. So we're going to call that stabilized for our DCA Super Saber. Let's do a couple more tests just to get a good idea of time, since it is so quick, on how quickly it stabilizes with airflow. So we're going to do the test consecutive here without stopping the camera. Remember, we will use our magnet to pull our fletchings to the side. We will turn on our fan, grab the arrow here. There we go. Let the fan ramp up. Release in 3, 2, 1, release. Arrows correcting. All right, that is stabilization. Notice how the arrow speed spin gets less. It's one of the factors we know that it's stabilized here. The reason it's less is it's no longer at an angle relative to the airflow. So the only spinning that can occur is actually due to the angle of the fletchings. This arrow is fletched at 2.5 degrees per DCA recommendations. We're going to call that stabilized right there. All right, let's rerun the test. Pull it to the side, make sure touching. 3, 2, 1, release. Again, very, very quick stabilization. Still have some spin rate. We get a little wobble as the arrow stabilizes and it starts to slow down. Magnet to the side again. All right, 3, 2, 1, release. That may have even been a faster stabilization there. Looking very good. There we go, we had the arrow slow down there. All right, stabilization has definitely occurred. Nearly vertical, very little wobble left and right. Arrow stabilized. We'll cut the fan. And you can see it stops very quickly and virtually no movement. So it was definitely stabilized left and right. Next up we have the boning blazer vane. Very common, comes on a lot of standard arrows. This is in the standard fletch, so it looks like maybe a 1 degree offset, maybe less, just a slight offset. Boning blazer stabilization test. 3, 2, 1, release. I expect this arrow to spin very slowly once it has reached stabilization. There, in fact, it stops. Look at that. So why did it stop? It stopped because the vanes are not at enough angle to generate any spin. That little bit of wobble, in fact, spin back the other direction slightly, that's just slight imperfections in the wind tunnel here. That arrow is stabilized for all intents and purposes. It's struggling at this point because it wants to spin, but doesn't quite have enough energy on those vanes to spin that arrow shaft. Now, in flight, these arrows will experience a much faster airspeed than I can generate. All right, so stabilization 1 has been reached. Let's go for round 2. Pull it to the side. Release in 3, 2, 1, release. Interesting, that time it actually didn't spin up. Oh, here it goes. We get a little bit of spin. It's catching the air a little bit, starting to spin. Notice though, now it's in a loop where it's struggling to stabilize. There it goes. It finally caught the drag correction enough. 3, 2, 1, release. No spin up again. Not enough fletch angle. However, this one stabilized much quicker. Okay, next up we have the boning heat vane, fletched at a 2.5 degree helical to the right. Release the arrow in 3, 2, 1, release. All right, very good. I think we are stabilized. Make sure we're touching fletchings. 3, 2, 1, release. Stabilized. 3, 2, 1, release. And stabilized again. All right, our fourth and final arrow for today's test will be the AAE Hybrid 26. Okay, release in 3, 2, 1, release. And stabilization has occurred. All right, let's go again. Wrong side. All right. 3, 2, 1, release. All right, stabilized. Third time. 3, 2, 1, release. And stabilized. So this is the first round of vane testing we did in the wind tunnel. We have the boning heat vanes fletched at a 2.5 degree. We have the AAE Hybrid 26s fletched at a 2.5 degree. We have the DCA Super Saber fletched at a 2.5 degree. And we have a boning blazer that is a slight offset. This is factory fletch, so I don't know the exact degree here because I didn't fletch this arrow. For determining angles of all this, I used DCA's little jig. So this is the VAT, the Vane Angle Tool from DCA for the Bitzenberger. All the ones that I fletched were fletched on the Bitzenberger. So the only vane that I did not fletch was the blazer. So the blazer is also a little older, has been shot, things of that nature. Hi, sweetie. I'll be out in a second. Let's look at the numbers, let's look at the results, and see what it turned out. I'll show everything on screen. Let's do it. All right, welcome back. So let's discuss a little bit what this wind tunnel test might have revealed here. So one thing I want to note is the tunnel is not absolutely perfect. There is a little bit of imperfections in flow in the tunnel. I tried to address that in the video. There is a little bit of wobble that does generate after the arrow stabilizes. So I just want to note that. I am aware of it, trying to figure out a better way to maybe alleviate that or test it. I do plan on getting like a smoke generator or something like that so we can visibly see the airflow over the fletchings. But as of right now, we tested 4 total fletchings. One was a boning blazer and a standard fletch that you'd buy from a factory, factory fletch. And then these 3 vanes, the Hybrid 26s, the boning heat vanes, and the DCA Super Sabers were all fletched at 2.5 degree. And they all performed nearly the same. So as of right now, it appears that as long as the
degree of the fletch is the same, it'll correct roughly the same in terms of the wind tunnel here. I am going to calculate the surface area of each of these fletchings and see if they're relatively similar. And excuse me, if they are, that would tell us that it would kind of be expected if the actual surface area of these vanes is nearly the same, even though they have different shapes. If the surface area is the same, they probably will perform the same when it comes to this type of correction to the arrow shaft. So we're going to have a bunch of data displayed kind of coming at the end here. I don't know, I might do a voiceover of it, we'll see. So stay tuned for kind of the results at the end of this video. And we've got a lot more testing coming up when it comes to the wind tunnel. I've got a high-speed version now that we're going to do. We've got a little bit bigger of a fan to play with. This is going to generate speeds a little bit closer to that of an arrow rather than what we've been doing. So it ought to be interesting to see, and we'll kind of go from there. All right, till next time. Just wrapping up that video there for the first wind tunnel test. So far we don't really know much. We've got a lot more testing that needs to be done, but we're going to see what we can find out. Just want to get a little update for some other stuff we got going on. The Archery ballistics app for iOS is live. There's a pro version and a free version. Check them out if you're interested. I'm working on the Android version. It's going to be a little while. Sorry, life's pretty busy. So I'll try to get that out for all those interested as quickly as I can. It's just going to take me a little time to design and build that. So I'm working as fast as I can on that. I've got a lot more coming for the wind tunnel. Alluded to there, I've got a higher speed fan, so we're going to play with that too and see if the results vary as far as correction times and things of that nature. So that'll be interesting results. Got some broadhead tests I'm doing coming up, and got a lot more discussion on bows, arrows, tuning. If there's any specific questions you have or something you'd like me to make a video about or discuss, please reach out and let me know. I'd love to hear it. All right, thanks guys.